I'm just sitting here, I got time. It's clear to see from up here, the world seems small. We can sit together, it's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. A step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be outdoors, forever free. You and me, meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Greetings, Glitter Gang. Happy Thursday. It's Thursday, May 27th. It's the last show of May 2021. Not the last show, but the last day of shows. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing our book club today. So our book club book is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa with translation by Philip Gabriel. That one up there in the corner. And when we're talking about the book, I'm going to put the book cover up there in the corner just like that, so that if you didn't read the book, but you want to read the book, you don't want to be spoiled for the book, then you can mute while that is showing and you won't hear any book discussion. All right. And so because we have a lot, I don't know when exactly we're going to talk about the book today, because we have like a lot to do in terms of like actually working today. So I don't know how much downtime there's going to be. And because this is a paid project that I'm working on, and these videos are going into, you know, the project folder, I'm going to try not to be talking about the book when I'm like explaining something project related, so that, you know, whatever, it's fine. So that you wouldn't miss anything project related if you were muting while the book discussion tag was up, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so now we have Tiny Cat Nails in time for the Traveling Cat Chronicles, thankfully. So we have, there's Tiny Cat, and then the rest of it, and there's fish bones, and then the rest of the nails is, you know, just accent decorative nails. So in the chat right now, they're having a fight over where it's hottest. And Mary, who lives in the DC metro area, which is where I used to live, is talking about how Florida is not as hot as that area. That is true. Occasionally, the DC metro area is much more unpleasant than the state of Florida. I remember one time when I lived in Miami, I had to go in August for like a baby shower or a wedding or something along those lines. It was some kind of social thing back in Northern Virginia, and it was way worse. Way worse. It's so much more unpleasant. The air quality is a lot worse in that area, than Miami, too. So like even while you're there, like it's harder to breathe. There's more pollen. It's just grosser overall. You know, a lot more smog because of all the traffic. And Miami is kind of cleansed by its proximity to the ocean and different like jet streams and things of that nature. So its air quality is not that they're necessarily like greener, but their air is just gets kind of cleaned by nature a little bit. Another thing that is mildly interesting, I guess, is that you know, not all of Florida has a tropical climate. So just like South Florida, where Miami is, has a tropical climate. But where I live, which is in the Tampa Bay area, it's a subtropical climate. And it's hotter here, even though we're farther north and we're farther away from the equator. It's hotter here in our subtropical climate than it is in Miami, which has a tropical monsoon climate. So climate is very strange. It was something that I learned when I lived in Miami. Now, one thing I will say about Florida is that, you know, we don't have such extreme heat during the day as more desert-like places, like parts of Texas or parts of Nevada or whatever. But we get punished for it in... we get punished for it at night. So because what happens is, because our humidity is so high, and by our humidity is so high, I mean it's in the 90s, 99% humidity is normal. 100% humidity I have seen more than once. I didn't know that was a thing that existed until I lived in Florida. And that keeps the temperature very much the same all day, so you don't get a break at night. Like the sun goes down and nothing happens, nothing changes. there's no improvement in your situation other than there's no sun on you. So like if you're outside, you're not like standing in the sun, but it's still just as hot at 3 a.m. as it is at 3 p.m. So, you know, that sucks. Okay, so humidity is the killer, man. Humidity is the killer. My dad has a t-shirt that says, "Sure, hell's hot, but is it humid?" Which he got when we moved from Southern California to Washington, D.C. And we all had to experience bad weather for the first time in our, well, not like for my parents, they'd lived in places that had bad weather, but like none of us kids had ever lived anywhere that had bad weather. So we'd never experienced bad weather, or let me say extreme weather, either extremely cold or extremely hot, really. So we did not know what was up. But yeah, hell's hot, but is it humid? That's really all that matters. So I'm finishing printing up my papers. My papers are Echo Park Salon. While those are printing, I'm going to be getting up and down. I'm almost done. I hope. Humidity does plump your skin. Humidity is good for your skin, and it keeps you looking younger for sure. That is one real nice advantage of humidity. And also, if you live in a high humidity area, certain skincare products like hyaluronic acid, for example, work better. So like if you live in a high humidity area, hyaluronic acid will moisturize better than if you live in a lower humidity area. It just works better because it relies on the humidity of the air to be effective. So there are some advantages. Okay. So here's how today's going to go. First, I'm going to explain the changes to the manual because they are many. They are many. So, not manual, album basics guide. And one thing about the album basics guides that I have to say is, like, their value increases over time because I mess with them far more and add to them far more than I've ever messed with or added to instruction manuals. So this one is a perfect example. We're now on version 14 of the box set remastered album basics guide. And version 14 has significant changes. So if you have any version other than 13 downloaded, you should get rid of it, or other than 14. So if you have 13 or lower, you should get rid of it because this is not just fixing measurements or fixing typos. These are major structural changes that have happened. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to point out is that on page 13 of the new album basics guide, again, this is version 14. So page 13 of version 14 of the box set remastered album basics guide now has, you will see, page style F. So I've added, when I sold it, right? When I sold it, it had 3 page styles. Now it has 5. How many it'll have when it's done remains to be seen. So yes, when I sold it, it had 3 page styles. During the first volume, we added page style E. During this volume, we added page style F. So there's now a 5th page style, okay? There's now a 5th page style. And you knew that was going to happen if you were at last Thursday's shows because I said it was going to happen. However, what's even stupider than that, as from my point of view, is not only did I add a new page style, okay, I added a new element. So now on page 24 of the album basics guide, instead of it being the end of the guide, you will see we now have element style D, which is the Z folder. Okay, Z as in zebra, the striped horsey looking thing from Africa. All right, so element style D. So element style D. All right, so element style D is a Z folder. And I am going to go over making one. We're going to do that on camera today. And I am going to clip out just like a 10-minute little sliver. That's just how to do that folder. And I'm going to put that in the instructional video section of the guide. So we're going to have like a small little section in it where I do a little tiny tutorial for that. It's not going to be different than normal. The only thing that's going to be different is I just won't be talking to you in the chat. It'll be more professional than I normally am. But that, don't worry, it'll only last a few minutes. I won't be professional for long. So, all right. Now, if that's not enough, okay, I gotta tell you something about Element Style D. So if you look at Element Style D, let me get a piece of paper so I can kind of show you this stuff. All right. So if you look at Element Style D, you'll see, let me focus close so that I can show you this kind of stuff. Let me change the focus. Let me just remember how I changed the focus. Maybe it's shooting mode. Nope, I don't think it's shooting mode. Nope. Maybe it's probably setup, huh? That's probably where you put things like focus. I try not to mess with this too much. No, it's not setup. Nope. Oh, here it is. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, fine, forget it. Oh, wow, I've totally messed something up. I broke my camera. So now I don't know how to just like go back. All right, I fixed it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what to click on to. Maybe I'll just have to explain it with my mouth instead of showing you, because I can't get it to focus. It's okay. It's okay. I think we can do it. So when you're on page 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, any of the last, 4 pages of the book. So basically the Element Style D section. At the very beginning of that section, it says, note, these folders can be positioned to open either horizontally or vertically depending on how they're cut or scored. So be sure to choose the correct set of measurements for your desired result. And so you'll see for each cutting guide, okay, so there's 5 different cutting guides on page 24 for different sized elements, whatever size you want. It'll say something like Element Style D H/V 7.5 by 7.5, or it'll say Element Style D H or Element Style D V. Okay, so that's Element Style D as in Delta, H as in hotel, which stands for horizontal, and V for Victor, which stands for vertical, or V, which stands for Victor, okay, for vertical. So it'll have a measurement 5 by 5 and an H and a V, or an H or a V. If it has an H and a V, that means it's square, and the way that you have it open horizontal or vertical is you turn it. So if it's square, you only need one set of measurements, and then you either put it so that the opening's on a horizontal side or you put it so that the opening's on a vertical side. But that only works if they are square. If they're vertical and you want it to open on the side versus the top, then the measurements change completely. So you have double the measurements in Element Style D as you do in any other section. So when you go to cut, you make sure that you choose the H if you want it to open from the side, or the V if you want it to open from the top, okay? So H, which stands for horizontal, means it's going to open side to side. The openings will be on the sides. And then when you pull it out horizontal, and it makes a horizontal accordion thing, you'll see I'm going to make one today. Okay. If you want it to open from the top so that you pull it up and it makes a long thing up or down, like a vertical thing up or down, then you choose the V. All right, so what you're going to do is you find your measurement. So remember, you have your page style, and your page style tells you what measurements go where on your page. So you go to your page style, you decide your page style, you say, okay, I want to do a Z folder in the top left corner. You see what's the measurement for the top left corner. You get that measurement. Let's say it's 5 by 5. Then you find in element style D, where's the 5 by 5? Let's say it's 5 by 6. You find where in element style D, you find the 5 by 6. And if you want it to open out to the side, you find the H. And if you want it to open up to the top or down to the bottom, you find the V. Okay, so that's when you get in there, you're going to see that element style D is twice as long as element style A, element style B, or element style C. And that is because it has twice as many measurements. So just be careful that you choose the right ones when you are doing your cutting. Okay, so choose the correct cutting guide for what you want. Now, if you choose vertical when you wanted horizontal, it will still fit on that spot. It'll just open up instead of to the side. So it's not like it's the end of the world if you don't choose right. I'm just saying, like, you have a choice now. Okay, so not only did I this past week make a new page setup, I also made a new element, and I made that element have twice as many measurements as all the other elements. So Kathryn was working overtime. She was like, I am gonna beef up. So this manual, this album basics guide is now like almost 10 pages longer than it was, or something crazy like that. So anyway, let me know if there's any questions about that. If you have any questions, or does that make sense? Okay, I hope it makes sense. It's pretty easy. Okay, it's pretty easy. All right, now I'm going to put my paper away. Looks like all my paper finally printed, so I have paper to decorate with today, which is nice for me. Beautiful paper with lots of pinks and blacks. When will the new album basics guide is there? So the one that's in there is the one. So if you go, it's in there now. So version 14, which is the one that I'm talking about that has all these changes, is already in the folder, in the album basics guide folder. So if you have the box set album remastered album basics guide, you can go in there and you can download it. Now, I recommend downloading it and not printing it, just because there have been so many changes to this album basics guide, and not just changes like I'm correcting mistakes, but additions, you know. So I've like made so many additions. The pages have changed a lot over time. The good news is for you, it just keeps getting better and better and better, and you keep getting more and more stuff. The bad news is we're on version 14 of the album basics guide, and I have a feeling it's not going to be the last version. Okay, I have a couple reasons. One is, you know, I could have made mistakes in the measurements. That's been known to happen. You know, I try not to, but you know. I mean, I never make mistakes. Past Kathryn, you know how she is, right? You know how she is. All right, so this is volume 2 of the box set album. Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at the paper. The paper is Salon by Echo Park. Here are some of the embellishments. Aren't they beautiful? Look how pretty. I printed the solids. I don't always do that, but I printed the solids because I thought I would try to match cardstock to the solids, give you some ideas for stuff you could do in terms of cardstock. So now I'm just going to flip through the papers. We can see the papers. This is a hair salon themed collection, although it does have some other beauty stuff in it. Again, this is a digital collection, but it was also a physical collection. If you can't find it physically because it's sold out in your area, then you can get it digitally. Again, Echo Park, Salon. Those bobby pins are so cute. I'm really happy with them. So yeah, here we have some makeup type stuff. So there are makeup themed pages as well. Lots of really nice patterns in this. I'm looking forward to using this one. I think it's going to be fun. Here's some nail polish. This pattern is great. I love this pattern. This one. And this one too will be nice. So there's a better mix of small, medium, large. In this than we sometimes see with Echo Park, in my opinion. I think Echo Park and Carta Bella, I find often kind of do a lot with small patterns and not as much with large patterns. But there's a better mix of sizes in this one, I think, than usual. So I'm pretty happy with it. Mary, you just need to invest in wigs. Get yourself a little wig room, you know. Then you can have all kinds of fancy wigs. Oh, sorry, that was Kathryn. Oh, Kathryn, yeah. I can see why you would not be interested. Never mind. I thought Mary had gone bald for COVID. That was her COVID due. I went bald for COVID. Not bald, but I did shave my head. So, or now I have a little mohawk, actually. Not a mohawk because my sides aren't shaved down to the skin, but a soft hawk, I think the kids call it. By the way, this paper that I'm using today said that it is double-sided, and I wanted to test that, so I printed one sheet twice, once on one side of the paper and once on the other. And it turns out it is double-sided. Like, it prints just as nicely on one side or the other. The reason I thought they might be lying is because this paper company is so cheap. I didn't really think they would have, and double-sided paper is usually a lot more expensive than single-sided paper, and this was not much more expensive. So, you know, but here they are, the two of them. So, looks like they were telling the truth. Looks like they were telling the truth. Okay. All right, so let's talk about, you joke about your baldness all the time. Maybe you could use it ironically. You could write little notes on the pages with like jokes about hair. Okay. So, last week at the end we did the planning for this page. So let's refresh, and we decided that we were going to do F, which is the new page, then C, 2 E's in the middle, then C, then F. Okay? And so what I'm going to do with the F is I'm going to do the 2 F's with the new Z fold. So the 2 F's are going to be Z fold, Z fold, Z fold, Z fold on both the front and the back. So we're not going to like mix in a bunch of Z folds with envelopes, with double-breasted pockets, with, you know, the F's are just going to be Z folds. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this measurement. whatever it is. I'm going to have to look it up on page F because I already forgot. And I'm going to make 8 of them, and I'm just going to make 8 of them right now. So once again, page F is on page, I think, 13. Yes, page style F is on page 13. So page 13 of the manual has page style F. So you go to page 13 to get the measurement off of page style F. Once you have the measurement, then you go find it on the cutting guide for element D, which is the Z fold. And it is on page 26, and it's the second one from the bottom. So it's not the last one on page 26, but it's the next one up from the bottom. And I'm going to make 8 of them, okay? 8 of them. So that means that where it says 1 piece of cardstock cut to this and not scored, 2 pieces of cardstock cut to this and scored this way, it's actually going to be 8 pieces of cardstock and 16 pieces of cardstock, because I'm going to do 4 of them on the first page and 4 of them on the last page, and we're going to make them all now. We're going to make them all now, okay? So I'm going to make them all now so that I can go quickly and mass produce them. We're not going to stick them in the book yet. We're going to decorate them. We're going to decorate them and first. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my paper, and I'm going to put my paper into 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to make 4 stacks of 4, and then I'm going to make 4 stacks of 4 because according to my notes, I can get this entire thing out of 1 sheet. So I don't need to do, sorry. Sometimes it's hard to pick stuff up off a flat surface. All right. So because I said I can get them, I can get one full set out of 1. I just need 16 sheets of paper to get all of them. I'm going to cut them 4 at a time so that this will go a little bit faster. All right, and again, I'm on page 26 of version 14 of the book. I'm on element style A. I'm using the H, okay? So I'm using the H. This is going to be horizontal, so they're going to open out to the sides, all right? So that's what we're going to do. All right, so hope you're all doing well. I know we got thrown into, just like thrown into this one. Lots of changes coming at you fast, but I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. We'll get through it together. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the one that's I need 8 of, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the one that I need 16 of. So in my next set of cuts, all right, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to just repeat what I just did, all right, and that's going to give me all of these, and then bring me halfway to these. All right, so I need 16 of these, I need 8 of these, I've got 4 of each, so I'm going to repeat what I did. That's going to give me 4 of these and I'm going to be done. It's going to give me another 4 of these and I'm going to be halfway done. All right. So, making my next set of cuts. All right, and once again, I've got 4 of the larger, of which I need 16, and I've got 4 more of the smaller, of which I need 8, so I'm done with this one. Okay, so now I'm going to cut these, more of these. And I have a scrap big enough to get 4 more from the remnants here. No, I don't. Lies. That's okay. That's all right. I thought, all right. So now I'm going to get the rest of these from this set. So when you're cutting and you're gonna do an assembly line or a production line, you're gonna do a lot of them. Think about how you can cut, you know, 4 at a time if you have a rototrim, and get more cuts at once so you don't have to do as much cutting. All right, and now I've got the other 8. So I've got 16 of this size, 8 of this size, and I'm ready to go. And I didn't even need 16 sheets of paper. All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to peel them all apart. That way it's just easier for me to grab and score. So these don't get scored. That's why there's only 8 of these, because these are the bases. So I'm just going to set those aside. And all of these ones are the ones that get scored. And again, all the measurements for this are on page 24 of version 14 of the book. The Album Basics Guide. So now I'm just going to score all of these where they get scored. I'm going to save back 1 set, which I'm going to put into like a little tutorial all the way from beginning to end. Because remember, I'm going to make a little tutorial, a brief little tutorial in today's class. So, hope you're doing really well, everyone, and that even if it's hot where you are, it's not too hot. It's been pretty hot here. We're having a little bit of a heat wave. It's getting to be that time of year, hurricane season. I have a tax-free weekend this weekend, I think, on hurricane supplies, which is like mildly irritating because I already prepped for the hurricane. I already told you. We've been talking about it on the show. At least I think I did. I thought I talked about it, how we had a really significant power outage from straight line winds the other night, maybe a month or so ago. And it made me realize that, you know, we weren't as well prepared for a hurricane as we could be. So I got all prepared for a hurricane at that time because I thought, you know, it's a good time because it's not hurricane season. Hurricane season's a few months away. You know, I don't have to fight with people for supplies. And now I could have done it tax-free. Oh, well. But I would be fighting with people for supplies, wouldn't I, though? Wouldn't I? So, and the only thing I haven't decided is if I want to get a generator, because I don't know if I want to deal with a generator. But we also have a freezer where we keep, like, bulk food purchases, and I don't want to lose what's in that freezer. So that's my, oops, I shouldn't have, well, whatever. Here's the little set that I've got to keep back for my tutorial. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to fold along all the score lines and burnish. Fold along all the score lines and burnish. Okay, so while I do that, let's say hi to everybody. Hello, Glitter Gang. How's it going? Happy Thursday. Today is book club, but I don't know if we'll be talking about the book this afternoon. If we don't, we'll talk about the book tonight because tonight we'll be decorating. I'm sure of it. We'll have all the construction done and we'll just be decorating. So tonight we will for sure talk about the book. The book is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa, translation by Philip Gabriel, and it's a short, sweet book. So hello to Sandra, who was the first to chat. I was second, but then there was Sandra was next. Then Kathryn, and both Donnas in a row. Both Donnas in a row. Then Bev and Candy and Mary all said hi. Welcome to their fellow glitter pals. Mary is in Florida or just back from Florida visiting her grandson or something. Chat's going by, so I don't know. And let's see, Donna's at the beach. Good for you, Donna. Let's see, Kimberly says hi. Hello, Kimberly, how are you? Then we all talked about humidity for a while. Pat says hi. Judy's here. Judy's always ready for book club. She's the #1 student, #1 book club champion, supporter. Melanie's here. Let's see. Gretchen went to go see a giraffe. Apparently, Gretchen thinks giraffes are cuter than we are, everyone. I guess we could either be offended by that or realize that it's true. All right, so now I have to tape all these, and they're going to get taped on the inside, so they're going to get taped here. And I'm going to run out of 3/8 inch tape partway through this process, so let me get some more out. Just check to see if I have some in my drawer, which I do. Let's get it prepped and ready to go. All right. It's ready to go. We'll use this one until it's used up. So, yeah. Well, I guess I could talk about the book now, so let's go ahead and at least do an overview of the book. So while I'm doing my taping, we can talk about the book. Again, if you don't want spoilers for the book, although I don't think I'll be giving any, just press mute, and all I'm going to be doing is adding tape. I'm going to run one line of tape next to the score line, and then I'm going to run one line of tape next to the edge. All right, so this book is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa with translation by Philip Gabriel. Philip Gabriel is a big Japanese translator. He does translation for a lot of really famous authors, notably Murakami, who he has like a really strong relationship with. The book is about a cat named Nana, whose tail is like a lucky number 7, so that's why he's named 7, I believe, even though he thinks it's a girl's name, which I think is one of those things where it's like, you probably have to be Japanese to get that. I was like, okay, if you say so, cat, you know. And he's kind of funny to me as a character. He has a really, really strong voice for an animal. His narration I find very human-like. You know, he seems kind of like a little punk sometimes, but I think it's because he's a street cat and he's got, you know, he's got an attitude from having grown up on the streets versus having always been a pampered pet. However, he is very kind of pampered and is picky about some things, you know, that he's gotten used to since he's been living inside, which I think is really interesting. And he is on a road trip with his owner, who is trying to find him a new home. And each chapter is a visit. Each chapter of the book, there's 3.5 chapters. And each chapter of the book is a different group of people that he is trying to be rehomed with. The owner is trying to rehome him with. So yeah, I think the cat's personality is extremely strong. You know, he's got a very clear personality. The cat does, for sure. Like his attitude, his little street attitude that he's got, you know, and all of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. His personality is extremely strong. His like little tough guy persona, and he has, you know, of course, he's a big softie ultimately, you know, which is really interesting. So the theme for this month was books that didn't make the cut in the month they were voted on, but that I read anyway and rated highly. And one of the things is that means that when I read this book, I read it for the second time. And there were definitely things about reading it for the second time, and this is spoilers, you know, for the book, but the spoiler thing is up. You know, the owner is trying to rehome him because he's ill. And, you know, it becomes clear to you as you read the book the first time that the cat has to be aware of this. Like the cat knows, just through conversations the cat has with other animals and things of that nature. Even though the owner does not tell the young man, he does not tell anyone why he's trying to rehome the cat. But the cat, it becomes clear to you that the cat knows why. And on the second read, there's definitely things the cat says and does that were more impactful, that were more meaningful. Not only knowing what you know as the reader, but knowing what the cat knows going through it a second time. I think that was very interesting to me. Some of the things he says, particularly when talking about like their relationship with each other, I thought were really interesting on a second read. So, and I thought maybe I wouldn't enjoy a second read as much because it is a fairly simple plot. It does deal with really some complex themes, but it's a pretty basic plot: man, cat, road trip, sea people, you know. So I wasn't sure, but yeah, it is interesting on a second read. So if this was your second read of the book, did you notice new things, or how many of you just read it for the first time? I guess that's a question for the chat. if this was your first read or your second read, and which reading experience did you like better. Oop, here we go. We're good. I'm through with my tape bracelet. So let's get the second tape bracelet. All right. So let's just, and then while you answer that, I'll tell you a book related thing, which I finally read. Kind of my like white whale, as far as literary fiction. I read The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie finally. That's been on my literary to-do list for a long time. And one of the things that struck me while I was reading that was when you read a book from like a truly talented writer who's really about examining people, humanity, the human experience, society, no matter what time their book is written in, there's so much of a feeling of this could have been written yesterday and he could be talking about today, that I think is so interesting. Like that's, you know, when you don't, I don't get that feeling a lot, you know, I don't get that feeling all the time when I'm reading. But everything he is talking about in the Satanic Verses, which is mainly about immigration, it's also about religion. And that's why he got in hot water. Because that is the book where he got, the people have tried to assassinate him over. And I can see why, because it's not just, you know, he has, when the book came out, the Ayatollah Khomeini, the original Ayatollah Khomeini, not the current one, put a fatwa on him for blasphemy. And I can see how you could, I mean, see the certain parts of the book as blasphemous for sure from that perspective. But one thing I think that I didn't know before I read it is that he has a character in the book who's very clearly the Ayatollah Khomeini, and that like a stand-in for him, an avatar for him, and that character doesn't get a glowing review, let's just say. So I think it's also possibly personal. So it's not just that he, you know, he has a character in the book who's clearly supposed to be Muhammad, but he also has a character in the book who's like clearly the Ayatollah Khomeini. And I don't know, you know, if it would have been as like controversial as it was if it had just been one or the other, I guess I'll say. I think the combination didn't help at all. So, you know, like I said, I understand that whole issue more now, you know, but the book, I think, like, the parts of it that are about immigration are, like, again, could have been written yesterday. It, you know, which is just so interesting. And I think that when he's talking about immigration and when he's talking about colonialism, it's like Rushdie is so good at that. You know, he's very talented. All right, so in the chat, that's just an update for you on what I read this week. I also reread the Traveling Cat Chronicles, but I'm not nearly as proud of that. That hasn't been hanging over my head for as long. All right, so now that I've put tape on all these pieces, I'm going to burnish and then cut them apart. So most of the people who read the Traveling Cat Chronicles this month read it for the first time, which I think is interesting. So did anyone read it for the second time? Or was it just a first time read for everyone? I know Judy read it. I'm pretty sure Judy read it the month it was up for voting, but I'm not sure if she reread it. But so Mary read it for the first time. Kathryn read it for the first time. She said, this was my first read, but I would read it a second time. I found it so charming. I'm curious if Hiro Arakawa has written other things. I haven't looked. Gretchen said, I listened for the first time and found it hard to get into. Lots of names, especially Japanese, were hard to identify, but once I got into the rhythm, I enjoyed it. Because of that, I would probably get something out of a second read. And what I'll say to that is, one thing that I found off-putting the first time I read it was in the translation, there's a lot of stuff that is like, if there's a different word for it in British English and in American English, it's the British English that's used. And that gave like a little British school book vibe to it. So, like, it definitely, especially when they were kids, there was a lot of language used that gave it a very British kids going to British school vibe for me the first time I read it. And the second time I read it, I didn't have that experience. It did not feel British to me at all. It only felt Japanese. It felt more Japanese to me. So I thought that was really interesting. You know, that's something that like I had trouble with the translation the first time, but didn't have trouble with the second time. Did not. So, all right. And it's not like it was a huge problem, but you know, like, it's not like it ruined the experience for me. It's just there were times when I was like talking about finding things in the back garden and things like that, you know. I don't know. Anyway, dodgy. Yeah, if slang's going to be used, it's going to be British slang. I just assume Philip Gabriel is British. So it makes total sense that the translation would then be in British English. Like, that's just what I think is probably going on. So, you know, whatever. I'm sure if British people read a book in Japanese that was originally in Japanese that was translated by an American, it sounds weird to them too. You know, I think it's not like, this is not a complaint. It's just something I struggled with the first time, and I didn't struggle with it at all the second time, which I thought was interesting, you know. All right. Well, and one thing I thought that was really interesting is how much the Japanese people, at least the people in this book, love tabbies. I thought that was really interesting. That's like, seems to be a really popular cat coat color in the book. Like, whereas, well, I guess it's popular here too. Suhi's dog was a very special dog. All right. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to talk for a minute about the project itself. Okay, so I've turned off the book. We're not going to talk about the book for just a second, or I'm not going to talk about it. You can continue to talk about it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to assemble all of these except for one. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my stack of the ones that aren't scored. And then, oh, wait, before I do that, I'm going to divide this into 2 piles. Because I need to turn some of them into file folders. So I should have 7 in each pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. All right. And then of these, I need to put this into 2 piles. And normally I would have 4 in each pile. This time I don't, and that's because I need to punch them 2 different ways. I don't have to, but I'm going to, so let me explain about that. All right, so when these are in the book, okay, half of them are going to be facing this way, and half of them are going to be facing this way. They're going to, so that they go out in 2 different directions, all right? And that means that the tab has to be on different sides, okay? So this is going to be turned into a folder, like an office supply folder. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to put the tabs in 2 different sides. So on the easiest way to do that, okay, is going to be to put half of them upside down, all right? So put half of them so you can see the tape and half of them so you can't, and then punch them at the same Okay, so I'm going to punch at 2.5, and then I'm going to split, and that's going to give me a 2.5-inch tab. All right, and then these I'm going to punch at 2.5 and split as well, but I'm going to punch it, since it's upside down, see how the tabs are on opposite sides. That's what we want. Okay. All right, so just make sure you divide up properly when you're doing mass production like this, to make your life easier. Okay. All right. And then what we're going to do is very, very simply is we're going to start with the bottom, and we're going to attach these to the bottom. So I'm going to peel, and then I'm just going to line this piece up next to the score line and burnish, and I'm going to do that with all of them. So this is the unscored piece. Lining it up next to the score line, leaving a line of paper showing in between the edge and the score line. Oops, make sure I grab from the correct pile. And when I'm done with this construction for 2 of the pages will be done. Which will be nice. Okay. So you can see how quickly we go here once we've got all our pieces prepped and ready to go. Okay, so once I've got them all like this, and I'm going to close them and burnish. Burnish, burnish, burnish. All right. Now, once they're all folders like this, then what we're going to do is we're going to just attach this to the front, like so. Easy, okay? But before we do that, we're going to want to cut the little strip off so that we don't have to do that when they're all attached. If we forgot, we could still do it. It's just, you know, easier to do it while they're not all attached. So I'm going to get my trimmer, and all I'm going to do is just line it up until the bottom of that dip is on my wire, and then cut until I get to the dip. All right. And then one last thing to prep these is to punch their corners with the punch board. So I'm just going to go in and punch that corner so it has the rounding that will look good with the tab, because they were designed to go together. And now those are done and ready to get attached. All right. So all we're going to do is take these and attach them. And the biggest thing I want is for just everybody to be lined up on this edge, okay? So I want this edge the most lined up. So what I'm doing is I'm lining this fold up with this cut edge. So then what they're gonna do is this is gonna be glued down into the book. So they're gonna open like so and like so, okay? All right. And then we have a nice little folder. And we can decorate this. These will hold on page style F. These will hold not quite 4x6 photos, but they will hold 3.5 by 5 inch photos, and 3.5 by 5 inch photos are the same ratio as a 4x6 photo, which means they are, you can resize your photos without having to print them out, or without having to crop them. If you print your own photos at home, and then if you print your photos at home, you don't have to crop all that much. All right, and then after this, I'm going to do a recording break where I do one all the way through, and that'll be the one that goes into the video tutorial section of the album basics guide. So there's one in there with the guide that's short and sweet, and then the other ones. And then we'll do another recording break, and we'll have the rest of the show. Where we can work on decorating. So I'm going to put this stack aside just for now. And I'm going to do a recording break, and I'll show you one from beginning to end. It'll be a tutorial style as if, you know, like they normally are. And we'll go from there. So thanks so much for watching. Just check the next video to see how we decorate these and put them all in the album if you're watching the recording. And then if you have this guide, the video that I'm about to record with how to make one beginning to end will be in the guide tutorial videos as well. And then now that we have these 8 things, we're just going to decorate them and do the first page and the last page of the book, and then we're going to work our way towards the middle. So we're going to be doing this book a little bit differently. Rather than going page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to be doing page 1 and page 6, then we'll be doing page 2 and page 5, and then we'll be doing page 3 and page 4. So we're going to, that way we can be replicating, doing the same thing, since we're doing these books as mirrors of each other, and that will save some time on, at least on the construction, so we can spend more time decorating, which is what, of course, I love to do. So thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, day, evening, whatever it is when you're watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now. Hello, and thank you for purchasing the box set album remastered album basics guide. This is a tutorial video for Element Style D. Element Style D. I'm going to be doing Element Style D to fit on page F. The measurements for that are on page 26 of version 14 of the album basics guide. So that's the version I'll be using today. And it is the 3 3/4 by 7 1/4, and I'm going to be doing Element Style DH, the horizontal version. Okay, so in this Element Style D, they can be done either horizontally or vertically. If you want them to open horizontally, which would be out to the side, then use the cutting guide marked with an H, and if you want them to open vertically, which would be up to the top, use the cutting guide marked with a V. So I'm on page 26. And my my cutting requires 1 piece of cardstock cut at 3 3/4 by 7 1/2 inches and not scored, so I'm going to set that aside. And then I have 2 pieces cut at 3 3/4 by 7 1/2 scored along the 4 3/4 edge at 3 3/4. So 2 pieces that are 4 3/4 by 7 1/2 scored along the 4 3/4 inch edge at 3 3/4. So 2 of those. Okay. And then that's it for cutting and scoring. And so the next thing is to fold along the score lines and burnish. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to add tape. And when I add my tape, I'm going to add my tape here on the inside to both my pieces. I'm going to use 3 3/8 inch Miracle tape for this. I'm going to run a line of Miracle tape along the score line and a line of Miracle tape along the edge. Miracle tape is what's known as a pressure sensitive tape. It's a double-sided pressure sensitive tape. Other tapes in this category that you could use are score tape or red line tape, whatever you prefer. And pressure sensitive tape gets stronger. The bond is stronger the more pressure is put on it. That's why it's pressure sensitive. So the best thing to do, regardless of what brand of tape you're using, whether you're using Miracle tape, score tape, whatever, is to burnish it after you put it down. So go ahead and burnish your tape. That's going to do 2 things. That's going to make it stick to your cardstock better, which is going to make it easier to peel the backing off, which just makes it easier to work with, but it's also going to make it stronger once you stick it down. Now, because these are folders, what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch them, and I'm going to punch them at I want a 2.5 inch tab, so I'm going to punch them at 2.5 inches, and then I'm just going to put this so that the edge is kind of splitting the opening in half, and I'm going to punch on the edge. Then I'm going to flip it around and put it in the back and punch that last corner so that corner is nice and rounded. That gives me a nice little folder. This is the We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board. Then to remove this tab, I'm going to put this in my Fiskars trimmer with the wire, and I'm going to place it so that the bottom of the dip here is touching my wire, and then I just cut straight up and remove that piece. So now I can set this aside, and oh, now I have to trim it again. I have to punch it again because I cut off my punch. Just kidding. All right, so punch it again. Just punch it once. You don't have to punch it twice. All right, so now it's ready to go. So what I'm going to do is take the one that's not a folder and peel the tape. And this is the one that's going to get stuck to the base. So the unscored piece is the base. I'm going to line the base up with the score line. And I always leave a little breathing room between the edge of my cardstock and the score line. I don't want my score line to touch my edge because it folds flatter if they're not touching. All right, so there we go. And then here, I'm going to peel the tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this around here, and then I'm lining them both up on my desk, and then I can just press it into place. And now I have a Z fold. All right, so that is how you make the Z folder, which is style D, element style D in the Album Basics Guide, and it's a new edition, so it's a bonus edition. So thanks so much for watching and for purchasing the Album Basics Guide. Okay. All right, I'm back. I finished the last folder. The video with that can be found in the Album Basics Guide folder as a tutorial video. And now they are ready to go in the book. So there's only one thing left to do in terms of mass production, and that is to put tape on the back. So that's what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put tape on the back of all of them so that they're ready to go in the book. And then we can talk about the Traveling Cat Chronicles while I do that. And then we may even have time to decorate. We'll see. We'll see. But we may even have time to decorate, which would be excitement. Excitement. Think of how quickly we would have constructed everything for the pages if we did. Now, I noticed while I was doing that little mini tutorial that was in the break there, I noticed that I am going to have to make a version 15 of this because for some reason, halfway through Element Style D, they stop being called Element Style D and they start being called Element Style A, just halfway through randomly. So I'm going to have to fix that so they all stay Element Style D. So, you know, it is what it is. We'll be on version 15, but version 15 won't, the page numbers will be the same. There will be no discernible change for all of you. It'll just be, of course, it's just, of course. So, all right, so now I'm going to flip it over to the back and I'm just going to add tape to all of them. So, oh, let me put up the book. Okay. All right, so in the Traveling Cat Chronicles, we're first introduced to the cat when he is living on the street. So he's an independent cat. He's a few years old. He's not a kitten. And he lives on the street. And he likes to live on this particular silver van. He likes this van. He considers that to be kind of his house or whatever. And he grows to have a little bit of a relationship with the young man who's the other main character in the book, who wants to feed him and be friends with him. And in the beginning, Nana is like not into it, you know. I mean, he lets him feed him, but he makes him work for pets and things like that. And then they eventually grow to have kind of a cordial relationship where the man is regularly bringing him food and he's regularly letting the young man pet him. And that is kind of cool with Nana. He's fine with that. But then what happens is Nana is hit by a car. And he's injured so severely that he has a compound fracture. And he knows he's going to die if he doesn't get help. And so he starts crying for the young man to help him. And the young man sees that he's injured and takes him to the vet and, you know, takes care of him and nurses him back to health. And he keeps him in his apartment until he'll be able, until, you know, all his stitches are removed or whatever. And he'll be able to be on the street safely again. But, you know, does ask him to stay. And one of the things that is clear to you as you read the book is that Nana understands what people want from him. You know, whether he understands, he says he understands multiple species of speech, and that's just something that humans aren't able to do for whatever reason. And he does talk to other cats, but he also talks to dogs, and he talks to a chinchilla even at some point. So he is sort of capable of understanding people, other animals, you know, whatever. And so he gets that the young man wants him to stay with him, and he decides to, almost like he's doing the young man a favor, go ahead and stay with him. You know, and that's how it comes across the first time you read the book. But like I said, the second time you read the book, like, more stuff becomes clear, because when that scene is happening, you know, Nana makes some comments that make it clear that he understands, like, what love is, and that he's staying because of love. So, you know, and that's something that didn't strike me the first time I read the book, but the second time I read it, it's like already they have a bond, and already, like, he's thinking of the young man in terms of love, which I think is really interesting. So that's not how he talks most of the time. You know, he's very tough. He's very sassy. You know, he's definitely trying to come across as a tough guy. It's really funny. He's really like, he's got a very funny personality. Nana does. But he's already, you know, you can see already he's kind of a softie. So they are living together, and the young man decides they're going to go on a road trip, and they are going to go on a road trip to find a new home for Nana. So that's the point of the road trip, is to find Nana a new home. And you, as the reader, are not told why, and the different people they visit on the road trip have different speculations as to why. You know, it doesn't go great. It doesn't go great because Nana understands the point of the road trip, and he has no intention of being rehomed. And again, like, this is something that on a second read is really heartwarming, because you don't know the first time you read the book until partway through the book that Nana understands that the young man is dying. Now it becomes clear as you read the book that Nana must understand that. He has to understand that. But, like, you don't know that when the road trip starts the first time you read the book. But the second time you read the book, like, Nana's determination not to be rehomed is so much more, like, kind of heartwarming the second time around, because you know why. You know it's because he knows that he's not going to let him die alone, which is really, it's just so, Nana's just such a good character. Like, he just, you know, I mean, he seems like such a tough little gangster. That's how he wants you to think of him, but that's not. He's just a big softie. He's just a big softie. So, yeah, so that's really, you know, something I noticed the second time around. So they are going to see people from this guy's youth, really, for the most part. So they see someone who was a friend in elementary school. They see someone who was a friend in kind of middle school, and they see someone who was a friend, a couple that were friends in like high school, college. And, you know, one of the things that's explored in the book is, you know, that the young man has gone to the effort of staying in touch with these people he's known his whole life, who he's, as you come to realize through the visits, had these really profound kind of bonding moments. Exactly. So Gretchen says Nana's not surprised when his human gets sick, so you figure he must have already known. And also, like, you know, when he's talking to the chinchilla and the dog, and they're talking about how he doesn't smell right, he smells like he's dying or whatever, and Nana isn't surprised or upset, at least not that he shows you, the reader, or shows the chinchilla and the dog about that information. So it's not like he's he's not getting that information for the first time, is what becomes clear. Like when other animals point out that the young man doesn't smell right, it's not, you know, Nana's not like, huh? Like, he doesn't have a reaction to that. And it becomes clear that reason he doesn't have a reaction to that is because he's like, duh, you know, like I can smell him too. I'm around him all the time. So, you know, when you realize that he's known the whole time, Nana has known the whole time, you know, again, you realize that partway through the book. So it's definitely, the first part of the book is a little bit more interesting the second time around for that reason. All right, so I'm going to burnish my tape, but I'm not going to peel it off because this is how we're going to ultimately stick these in the book. And I'm going to make 2 piles with the 2 different directions that the tabs face. All right. Oh, I think I already have them divided. That's convenient for me. Now I did look up some discussion questions for the books, and for the book, and one of the questions is, you know, is it realistic, these relationships? And I think it's one of those things where it's like, I think it's realistic that if someone's willing to work at a relationship, which the young man is, that these relationships could exist. So one of the things that's, you know, observed by Nana at the end of the book is, at the funeral, is how many people come to the funeral, because the young man does care about building and maintaining relationships. So he has like really strong relationships with even his coworkers. And so, you know, I don't, like, he's clearly a caring person who people are drawn to, and they're probably drawn to him because he is such a caring person. Okay. So let's pause just for a second with book club. Okay, so we have finished the construction, essentially, of these 4 pieces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the book, and I'm going to show you how they would go in. So here's page F. And what I want is, I want the tabs to be in a different corner on each one. So you're going to take 2 from each stack. Okay. See? So you take 2 from each stack. That's why I have the tabs in all different directions. So this way I can have tab, 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 tab. So I have tabs going in all different directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 4 and I'm going to clip them together so that they stay together between now and when we're done decorating. Okay. So I'm going to take these and set them aside so that they're ready for the last page of the book. And then with these, I'm going to just label which one they are. And I'm going to go ahead and label them right on the front with bottom right, bottom left, top right, top left. And that's just for me when I'm doing the decorating so that I kind of keep track of them. So that when I decorate them in a way that makes sense. Because I need to think about how they're all going to look when they're all together like this. So, you know, am I going to use the same pattern of paper as the base on all of them and then just give them changes with elements? Like, how am I going to handle the decorating? That's really like one of the things that we have to think of now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a recording break here because the construction of this is finished, and in the next video we're going to talk about the decorating. So if you're watching the recording live, just hang tight, nothing's going to change for you. And if you're watching the recording in the archives or in the album basics guide, then just go ahead to the next video where I'm going to start to talk about decorating these first page in volume 2 of the box set album, the Salon version. So thanks so much for watching, and just hang tight and I'll be with you in a second. Greetings, Glitter Gang. Happy Thursday. I just finished decorating the Z folders for page style F, which is the first page of volume 2 of the box set album Remastered. This is the Echo Park Salon version, and it's gonna look like this. So we have these 4 folders, we have the tab in a different corner, and I explain in previous videos how to arrange them so you do, and how to cut them so you can put the tabs in a different corner on each one. I've done the same layout for the last page of the book. I've set those aside. We're not gonna decorate those right now, so we're going to decorate the first page first. We're going to get all the way through the first page first before we work on the last page. All right, so I've labeled them top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. That's just for me, like when I start working on them and have pulled them apart to know what I want to do. So the first question is, how do we want to decorate the fronts of these folders? Do we want to use like the same design of paper for the front of all 4 of these, and then maybe like differentiate them with scraps, not scraps, with cards? So like, for example, here are the cards for the collection. So I've got, nope, those are my solids. Just kidding. All right. Here are the cards. So let me know your thoughts in the comments about, should we just use one sheet of paper for all of them? What should we do? And then we can put cards, and we could do smaller cards, or we could do larger cards. I like these squares. Like maybe we could put a square in the center of each one. And then what should we use? I kind of want to use this one, this pattern of paper. I think that could look cool. And I'm just trying to decide if I want to print this again long and skinny so that it's like a little bit larger, because I need a little bit more of it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use this pattern but I'm going to print it a little bit longer, just really quickly. I'm not going to go over to my computer screen because I'm going to do it very fast, hopefully. I will hopefully do it very fast. But I want to use that pattern of paper because I just think it's so beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, actually, I'll come over here. Why not? Why not? Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, it's 12 by 12. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it 15 inches because actually I'm going to go ahead and make it 16 inches. So I'm going to make it 16 inches. And then I'm going to use my little zoom tool and click fit on screen so I can fit the whole thing on the screen. And I'm going to make it 8 by 16. So what I'm going to do is going to cut it so that it's 8 by 16. And then I'm going to take this 8 by 16 and move it over here and put it in the center of a 13 by 19 and print it. So that way this is going to be easier for me to cut up into exactly what I want. And I'm going to change my settings to the setting that I have saved for printing paper and print it. And it's as simple as that. And then what that's going to do is, oops, what that's going to do is allow me to, when I cut this, the pattern is going to line up really nicely. So if I had cut this out of my 12 by 12 sheet, I probably could have gotten it out of my 12 by 12 sheet if I cut carefully. You know, it's possible that I might have been able to. However, like the pattern wouldn't have lined up as perfectly as if I reprint it in a format where I know it's going to line up. Okay. And so what that's going to allow me to do is to cut it into like 4 by 8 pieces, which I can then cut down to fit onto this piece. All right. All right, so we'll start there, and then I think for elements, we'll use these smaller ones. I'm going to use these 3x4 cards. And then maybe we'll use the solids to kind of put them on here in a way where they like go all the way across so that it's like, well, you'll see. You'll see what I mean. Let's get the other one printed first. So while that's printing, I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. And I'll just use my ruler and a craft knife. And my ruler and my craft knife are attacking me. So once again, this is Echo Park Salon. And I got it from Snap Click Supply, which I have linked below. If you're watching the recording, then, you know, just go to Snap Click Supply and search Echo Park Salon and it'll come right up. Or you can look for it physically because it was a physical paper at some point. All right, so now I can cut these apart pretty quickly in my, look how different in height they are. They're not all 3x4. That's kind of, that's kind of annoying, but whatever. Well, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Okay, so let's come look at this beautiful paper over here, which is gorgeous. Look at how pretty. All right, so same thing with this. We're gonna cut with the ruler and a craft knife so you all can see better. And I keep saying craft knife, which I think is, you know, it's technically accurate, but this is really a rotary trimmer. But it is a knife I use for crafts. And if you don't have a rototrim, you know, this is a way that you can cut the larger pieces as well. You can use a long quilting ruler like this one, and a rotary trimmer, which is also a quilting tool like this one. All right. And then I'm just going to cut this in half at 8 inches and then cut that in half, each of those in half at 4 inches. All right, so now it looks like this, okay? So all we need to do now is figure out how are we going to cut these down to fit. Oh, hello. Come here. Come over here. Say hi. You haven't said hi in a long time. Come here. Tiny Cat's up here. She must have known her nails were. Aw. Aw. Come on, Tiny. Come. I'm going to put you on the desk. No. Hi. Yeah. Hi. How are ya? How are ya? Me? I know. Her little voice is so tiny, just like her. Yeah, you haven't been up here in a minute. You haven't been up here in a minute. Whoop! She's going and scent marking everything because she hasn't been up here in so long. Everything smells like Kitty and Jack. Hi, yeah. Nothing smells like Tiny Cat anymore because you've been shunning us. She's so funny. Okay, so I want to cut these down, but I want to make sure I keep these cuts the same. So if I'm going to cut any excess off, I want to cut it off from the top and from the side. That way they'll flow together nicely. Although, if I cut 1/8 of an inch off, the pattern will actually flow a little bit better if I cut 1/8 of an inch off these inside edges. And the reason why that is because, you know, there's going to be 1/4 of an inch missing. Don't rub your face on scissors, buddy. Okay, all right, you got, yeah, all right. Yeah, it's so hard to be tiny. It's so hard to be tiny. You want this? You want, is this your paper now? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut up this Post-it and put it in what I consider to be the center here. So I know where the center is when I go to cut this down to the size that I need. And of course the size that I need is 1/4 inch smaller than my actual piece. Hi. Hello, you're so beautiful, but you're so dusty. You've been rolling around in sand. I can see that you've been rolling around in the sand. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Life is hard. Life is hard. Are you having a tough day? You having a tough day? Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna cut 1/8 of the amount that I need to cut off of this from this edge and the rest of it from this edge. And it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to cut 1/8 from the bottom and the rest of it from the top. And the reason why is, let me just get the piece. So if I have 1/8 of an inch showing, and actually let me do this. Let me label. So I know which piece goes where. But if I have 1/8 of an inch showing all the way around on these folders, then that's going to put 1/4 of an inch between this edge of the pattern paper and this edge of the pattern paper. So if I remove 1/4 of an inch from the middle, then the pattern will flow more nicely because I'll have cut out the part of the pattern that's quote unquote missing. Okay, so you know, it'll look like it's missing. It'll just look a little bit cleaner if I take the time to do that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go cut these down to the right size, and then I'll be back. And I'm actually going to go and do one at a time, I think. One at a time. Hi. Hi. Well, hi, cute stuff. How are ya? How are ya? How are ya? Yeah? Are you good? Are you good? All right, so if I've cut this properly, it should fit on here really nicely, which it does, okay? Which it does. So you can see that I have that gray going all the way around. So I'm gonna just keep doing that. And then I'm gonna have to figure out how to cut this so that my punch fits properly. I can never remember how to cut it with a punch. Look how beautiful that looks on the gray, by the way. So that's really nice. That's really nice. All right. Hi, Tiny. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of scrap paper to the same size as this. And that way I can test how I need to do my punches. All right. So this is the same size. So the question is, do I do my punching at like 2.5, same as I did my tabs? I can never remember, or if I need to make it a 1/4 inch smaller. So let's just see. Yeah, I need to make it a 1/4 inch smaller, so I need to do it at 2 1/4. Okay. Well, now we know. Now we know. Okay, so here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to do them one at a time so I don't mess up. I'm going to start with the bottom right, and I'm going to work my way around. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tape the edge that I'm going to punch. That way, that edge is, I don't have to worry about trying to tape after it's punched, you know what I mean? So I'm going to tape the edge before it gets punched. So, and then on this one, the tab's at the bottom, which means I have to put it at the top. So I'm going to punch at 2 1/4 because this is the mat, and in the middle. Okay, then I'm going to get my trimmer, and same thing as before, I'm going to just line the bottom of the dip with my mat, and then when I put this down, it should fit perfectly, which it does. Let me just hold it up so you can see. The only thing left is I've got to do that corner. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add tape to the remaining 3 sides. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink it and stick it down. And that way we're going to get a really nice look, I think. Hopefully by the end of today's show, we'll be able to see all 4 of them so we get an idea of the lay of the land. All right, so now I'm going to peel my tape and stick this down. And I think this is going to look really elegant and chic. Oh yeah. Let me just back this on something white so you can see how it looks, but how we've got that nice matte all the way around. All right. So this is the edge that gets the wide tape because that's the edge that's going to get punched. And I'm just going to do the rest of the tape while I'm here. And burnish. And then this is the corner that needs it, so I'm going to do face up, so 2 1/4, and then split. Okay. And then trimmer. And then punch. Then ink. Then peel and stick down. Okay, and see how the pattern flows so well across from here to here that there's no, like, it doesn't look weird. Like, these two haven't been cut, right? So if I separate them, see how this doesn't quite line up. This doesn't quite, they don't quite line up. They look a little bit like there's a gap, you know, so that's what cutting the 1/8 inch out of the middle does, is you remove the gap. All right. So let's put down our pieces. I'm going to do all my taping now. And having these little Post-it notes is keeping everything straight for me. So, don't need the 3/4 inch tape anymore. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish with the 1/4 inch tape, and then we'll punch. And this way we're going to get a nice clean look. And then tonight when we come back to do more with these pieces, we'll have our little canvas ready to go. We'll think about how we want to decorate it. Okay, now okay, so now I need this one in the top corner, so I'm going to do 2 1/4 and split the difference so that it goes there. And then this one, I have to do it upside down so that it's the mirror. 2 1/4, split the middle so that it's the mirror. See, they need to mirror each other. Go ahead and set that to the side. Get out your trimmer. All right, put your trimmer away, get your punch back, and punch your last 2 corners. And then you can put your punch board away for now, but don't put it like away, because I think we're probably going to need it for other books or other pages, other decorating on this page. So ink, and I'm using Distress ink in pumice stone because that matches the graphite cardstock that I'm using very well. So go ahead and put that away. And now I'm gonna remove the tape and stick it down. And these Post-it notes, you know, have really helped me keep everything organized. So I'm glad I took the time to label what goes where, because I still know where everything goes even after I cover up this label of what goes where. All right, so just to give you an idea of how it's going to look, let me get everybody lined up properly. So there is our first page in our book. So this is how we start. So I'm really happy with our first page. I think it turned out really beautifully. We have a new element introduced, and we have a new page style introduced. So we've used the new page style, and we've used the new element on the new page style. And then what we'll do when we come back tonight is we'll work on, you know, incorporating these into the design somehow. Maybe. Who knows what we'll do? Who knows what we'll do? But it's already looks fabulous. So just took a little time, not very much extra time, to make it look so neat. But we're off to a great start with volume 2. Off to a great start. Really happy. So I'll be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern USA time, which is 5 hours from now. So whatever time it is where you are now, in 5 hours, I'll be back. For those of you who are overseas and are headed to dinner or headed to bed, enjoy your evenings, enjoy your weekends. It was so nice to spend time with you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the project, and I'll see you next week. For everyone else, I'll see you back here tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern USA time in just a few hours, and we'll continue decorating page 1 of volume 2 of the box set album Remastered. Links in the video description to where to get the guide so that you can follow along and make one yourself, links to the paper, links to the cardstock, everything you need to know. And have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you tonight. Bye now.